Hi, everybody. This is Kamal. I'm co-founder at AccelerateAI. I welcome you all to this session. We'll be talking about very important aspect of how do you prepare a compelling CV in data science and AI space. We get a lot of questions from everybody around this. A lot of mentees talk about how should we put our profile and things like that. So we have decided to put together some 6 key tips that we feel as part of writing or presenting or preparing yourself a very compelling CV for success in data science and AI. This part is going to cover part one of the series, where we will be including some of the initial 2 to 3 key tips as part of it. And then you can refer later to our part two of the series, which will cover the rest of the tips. So let's dive in. Now, when you look at typically, we get a lot of queries from how to put together a CV for a data science role, right? The questions are a lot. What should I cover as part of the profile or CV? What should I highlight? What should not be highlighted? How long should the document be? Is it going to be a 3 pager, 4 pager, or more than that? A lot of questions around that we get. How to highlight some of our strengths? How should I include some of the open source related contributions or community collaborations that I have done as part of data science and AI work? Or how to highlight the sequence of the content in what manner, right? And should I be giving references for my practical work that I've done as part of a particular URL in the CV document, and so on? So the questions are immense, right? And you have to look at very key aspects of it. Now, some of the things, of course, which have to be avoided when putting together a very compelling and strong and powerful CV, we have to make sure we take care of some of the hygiene factors first. And those could be like, spelling mistake is a big no-no. We should check that. We should check for grammatical errors always. And we should also have a professional composer before getting onto a face-to-face interview or a virtual interviews. And of course, on-time presence in the virtual interviews, logging on 5 minutes prior and all, that's something which is a hygiene factor, is what we would say. Now, apart from this, let's focus on what is more relevant from a data science perspective. So first one is about outcome versus responsibility is what we would say. Now, focus to capture on projects, programs that are quantifiable, that have got some quantifiable results. You would have some dollar numbers, dollar savings, some reference customer, those kind of things, right? So focus on outcomes rather than responsibility. That's one. Second is about your role, your contribution, what you have done as part of some of the successful projects or use cases in the past. Then next is about community visibility or community presence. Are you involved in some of these? In what extent? What is the magnitude of it? Those are really very, very important. Then next is about customize, customize, and customize. You have to create your CV based on the job description or the business need. You have to tangle that, you have to tweak that in a way that you're answering to their primary questions, their primary need. Skill summary, keywords that have to be captured, of course, because most enterprises have initial screening by AI bots, and it is important to get through that. So you should really be careful in having that. Then, of course, breadth first, depth later. That's another point. So wide variety of data science problem that are involved, you are involved in solving those is important, whether it is regression, classification, clustering, deep learning area, forecasting, recommendation, association. There could be many of these. Now, if you can demonstrate in a multi-variety areas or within, let's say, regression, you have linear regression, logistic regression, lasso, reach, some of the examples, some of the use cases, some of the projects and value that you have created in that would definitely be helpful. So breadth first and depth later. And then, of course, last but not the least, the very important aspect of identifying an industry mentor who can give you feedback, who can give you feedback on some specific aspects, and it all aims for continuous improvement. That's very important. So these are some of the key 6 tips that you should focus on. Now let's dive into the first one in detail. So if you look at outcome versus responsibility, what we focus on that, right? Now, on the left-hand side, if you see, there are the way that we highlight or project some of our aspects, it should be more quantifiable than subjective to the responsibility that you had. And the examples are this. You would say you have realized cost savings of 3% within 6 months of implementing the machine learning solution. That's more powerful because you're talking about more quantifiable numbers. It could be dollar numbers, it could be percentage savings, and so on. Similarly, customer satisfaction or CSAT improved from rank 4 to rank 2 within 4 months of implementing the machine learning solution, right? And there could be a number of public references, those kind of things. Or you have performed something where you reduced the maintenance cost from X% to Y% and so on. Or you have improved some of the key performance indicators, like let's say availability went up 2 to 3 percentage points from 94% to 96.5% and so on, let's say, for example. So these are quantifiable aspects, which is more about impact creation, outcomes that are as part of your work. That should be a strong yes, right? And the other side, the right hand side, when you see, when you talk about responsibility, responsible to lead the project program, this is very generic. You can highlight some of these things in a different manner, but some of these statements, my responsibility involved data analysis, data wrangling, data visualization, and building machine learning pipelines. So if you look at these as an example, so this should be avoided to the most, and then you focus more on your outcomes in a quantifiable perspective. The second aspect is about your role. So when we talk about your role, what is your inclusive, practical exposure on the project? What type of parts or components that you have delivered that you are associated with? Is it the exploratory data analysis related space? Is it, in the feature engineering space? How much is the feature engineering that you are involved in? Or it could be in the modeling, which could be model development, model evaluation, model deployment, any of these aspects into it. It could be in the cloud exposure, how it is deployed in the cloud setup, configuration, and those activities. So essentially what we are talking about is, when we look at the CRISP DM, how much your role is attributing to each and every component. And that's where you have to detail it out or present it out in a way that reflects your role effectively. Then the third is about community visibility or community presence. This is very, very important. When we look about this, first one, of course, one example is GitHub. You should have a GitHub repository is a must for any data science practitioner today, irrespective of you have 0 to 5 years or 15 years or 30 years experience. It's a must. You should look for narrative and code base both. Not just that, you should have a code, but you should have a narrative about what has to be done there in a documented form or a concise summary kind of thing. If you have done a particular use case, what was the business problem? What was step N to step 1 to step N that you have done to accomplish that project, right? What are the best practices? What are the details around those steps that have been performed by you? Those type of things are going to be very helpful. And then if you build up your GitHub, obviously there would be an enterprise GitHub, there would be a personal GitHub. Based on whatever is possible and feasible, we should maintain this. Then of course, we also need to are in the digital world, so have a complete profile in LinkedIn, because each and every recruiters, hiring managers, they would look to LinkedIn for your completeness of the profile, whether you add certifications, whether you add patents, publications, or anything for that matter that you would like to, kind of highlight. Those aspects have to be captured. You also can showcase some of your active participation and the continuous learning that you're doing in communities such as Kaggle, because it's one of the largest data science communities where more data science practitioners are available. They discuss, they share some of their views. So it's important to have a participation in Kaggle as well. If you are looking at a thought leadership angle, you can also look at blog writing, storytelling in medium.com. Through that, there could be a lot of other forums like Towards Data Science, like Analytics Vidya, like a lot of those things. But medium.com is a very strong place to focus your blog writing skills. And of course, a lot of others. It could be Stack Overflow, it could be Data Science Central, it could be Kerry Nuggets, a lot of other community forums where you need to have a visibility and presence about what you're doing as part of a data science journey. This is very important because this is something kind of a proof of pudding, I would say. And that's where we'll be able to demonstrate some of our work in a practical sense to somebody who's trying to look at us and try to evaluate at what level we are in, or try to compare with their job description and then try to hire us, right? So these are some of the key 3 points that we have covered as part of this one. I would definitely encourage you to subscribe to this channel, Accelerate AI YouTube channel, and you would get future subscriptions of whatever that we key things that we are publishing as part of data science. We would also be sharing the part 2 of this in next conversation. Thank you so much.